Are we ready?
Yes.
Is everybody ready? All right, welcome everyone. I am Candace Hunt, Chair of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board. This regular meeting of the MCSAB is being held today, Monday, July 27th, 2026 at 1:00 p.m. The notice of this meeting, which included the date, time, place, purpose, and identified the attendance available to the public, has been posted. Minutes of this meeting will be recorded. This meeting is being called to order at 1:03 p.m. on Monday, July 27th, 2026. As I call the names of the board members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Jay Carney,
President, Boardroom, Jackson, Mississippi.
Carol Gary, Candace Hunt, present, Boardroom Jackson, Aaron Meyer,
Present, Boardroom Jackson.
Ben Morgan,
President, and I know it's a surprise, but I'm in the board.
Candace Robbins,
Present in the boardroom, Jackson.
Marcy Scoggins. A quorum is present for conducting a meeting. At this time, we will do the pledge, if everybody would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jay would like to pray.
Let us pray. Father, we just humbly come to you today. And Lord, we do ask for your wisdom. We ask for your direction. We ask for your guidance. Lord, your word says if we ask it, you would give it to us. And God, we're here today to represent you. Lord, I pray that every decision that we make would bring honor and glory to you. Let us understand and realize why we're here. We're here to serve you and certainly serve the kids of this great state. Lord, we know that Mississippi has been last in everything. We should have been first in and first in everything we should have been last in. But your word says that you shall make the last first. God, we ask that you would set Mississippi on a hill that would do things the right way and honor you in everything we say and do. Forgive us of our sins. Bless this meeting today. And we'll give you all the glory and all the honor in Jesus' name. And everyone said amen.
The mission of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board is to authorize high-quality charter schools, particularly schools designed to expand opportunities for underserved students. We need to add an item amendment. Does everybody see that? It's added at the bottom. I will entertain a motion to add this item to the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
Ben Morgan.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The June 15th, 2026 regular monthly meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Jay Carney.
Second, Aaron Meyer.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The June 16th, 2026 board retreat. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Please identify yourself for the record.
I so move Candace Robbins.
Second,
Aaron Meyer.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. For the July 16th, 2026 Applications Committee meeting, I will entertain a motion from the committee members to approve the minutes. Please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
Second. Second Candace Robbins.
Any discussion?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, for the chair report, we will hear an update from Dr. Angela Bass from Mississippi First.
Great, thank you. All right, thanks. I'll be very brief. Oh, Mike, can y'all hear? Okay, great. Okay, so thanks for the opportunity to speak before this board today. My name is Angela Bass. I'm the Executive Director of Mississippi First. Before I just dive in and give you some updates about our work in the charter sector, I'd just like to give you a brief introduction into who we are and what we do. So Mississippi First is a nonpartisan education policy and advocacy organization. We work to identify the policy solutions that will be most transformative in our education landscape in Mississippi, and we work to bring smart policy to the state. So I really appreciated Mr. Carney's prayer where he talked about, Mississippi First has been last a lot of times when we should be first, and first when we should be last. And that used to be our tagline. And that's why we named ourselves Mississippi First. And so our work in the charter sector begins with that we believe that every child in Mississippi deserves access to a high quality public education. And so we've worked since 2013. We worked since before 2013, advocating for the Mississippi Charter Schools Act of 2013. And since then, we've worked to ensure that more kids can access high quality schools. And so I also want to just take a minute to introduce our team members that we have here today. So I'm Angela Bass. We also have our Director of Special Projects, if she could just give a wave, Farron Russell. She leads our charter school programming work. We also have our Director of K-12 Policy and Research, Grace Brazil, and she leads a lot of our charter school policy work. And we also have Miss Linda Caldwell, who is our charter schools program coordinator, who works to administer our charter schools program grant. And so when you think about the work that we do for the charters in the charter sector, there's 4 big buckets. And so the first bucket is direct resources to schools. And that involves us administering our charter schools program grant. The charter schools program grant is a $19.3 million federal grant, of which 90% of those funds are subgranted to startup schools. That means that startup schools can get up to $300,000 per year for 5 years to support their startup and expansion costs. And that's the important distinction too. It's not just, thanks for the slides. It's not just for startup schools. We've been able to make these awards to schools that you guys have approved to be expansions as well. So our latest awards have gone to Ambition Prep, who has worked on an expansion to expand into middle school and high school. We know that startup needs extend beyond what the charter school program grant can offer. Also, the charter schools program grant is a reimbursement-based grant, so a lot of schools have trouble with accessing startup funds. So we also provide a $75,000 startup grant for schools to be able to start accessing those charter schools program funds. And we also partner with the Hope Credit Union to offer the Hope Cash Collateral Loan Program, where we act as a guarantor for those schools who need additional cash flow. I'll move on to the next big bucket of work. So not only do we provide, direct resources, we provide technical assistance. And so we have dedicated staff to provide technical assistance to our subgrantees. We also work to provide grants and contracts to organizations that provide technical assistance to charter schools. And so we offer charter application support through our partnership with Embark. We provide pre-opening support through partnerships with school launch providers. These have included an organization called K. Allen Consultant and Bellwether and Stowe Consulting. So a number of consultants that do work to provide year zero support. We provide specialized technical assistance for our grantees that might be needing more responsive help during their grant period. So we've worked with consultants like GT3, which are financial consultants, and Bellwether when schools need additional ad hoc support. The next big bucket of work that we do is in the ecosystem. And so we work, we're working on a few different initiatives right now, but we work across the ecosystem. So when we think about other partners that we do this work with, Embark, the Charter Schools Association, we looked across, I've been in this role for 1 year, but we've identified, some gaps where we feel like we could step in and provide a surge of support to shore up some of the areas. And so we realized that if we want to have more high quality schools, we need to intentionally recruit and develop high quality founders before they ever submit a charter application. And so in response, we've worked on a few different initiatives that I'll talk a little bit about. So we've launched what we believe, what is, a coordinated founder recruitment and incubation initiative, where we're currently building a pipeline of future school leaders. And as they move through the process, we're matching them with one of 4 incubation partners that can help them design strong schools, build governance structures, develop budgets, prepare competitive applications. And like I said, this is a surge of support that we're providing. Our goal isn't for Mississippi First to be in this space forever, but we want to help build the pipeline and shore up some of the gaps that we've noticed in the sector. And we've also worked to support the Mississippi Charter Schools Association, which you'll hear from today with Dr. Dixon, to ensure that he has a data dashboard that can support his the performance monitoring of schools and providing supports for schools when they need it. And then lastly, I'll close on this one, is that we act as a resource and a partner to the charter schools, to the MCSAB board. And so we want to continue coordination to support our subgrantees. We also provide research and policy support to the authorizer board, thought partnership, and information sharing, because we know that we have one goal to ensure that we have high quality schools for all of our students. And so I think that I'm low on time, so I'll stop here. But if you see me around, feel free to ask me any questions, reach out to me for any support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I just want to say on behalf of the staff here, we really do appreciate the partnership with you and your team, and have enjoyed getting to know everybody and work really alongside you. So thank you all for what you do. Thanks to you all in the back for being here today too. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. We will now hear an update related to the strategic planning project. Following up from our board retreat from Anna Nicotera at Basis Policy Research.
Great. Well, hello and good afternoon. We've heard that we have to speak loud so people hear us in the back. Are we good?
Can y'all hear in the back?
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, let me get our slides up so that you can see them. And we really appreciate the time to be able to talk and do a little summary of the retreat that we facilitated with the board in June. So today our focus is to basically get that summary. As part of this process, there will be a report that we will be providing to the board for the September meeting. But today is really just serving the purpose of summarizing what happened on that retreat. It's great to see Jay and Ben here today. We get to meet you all at the retreat. So, if there are any questions, please raise your hand. Indicate to us that you would like, questions or comments. It's just so that we can make sure that everybody's on the same page about the retreat. So my name is Anna Nicotera. I've also got Sarah Dyson here. And we have a third member of our team, Carrie Colley, who actually is leading this work. She's on vacation this week, so we're going to try to take over and hopefully do an all right job in terms of providing this summary. So our agenda for today, we're trying not to take too much time, but we're going to go through the 3 main sessions that we facilitated at the retreat. And those sessions focused on 1, governance identity and goal clarity. Session 2 was on defining quality. And then session 3 was on decision making across the charter school life cycle. So we're going to provide that summary through those 3 sessions. And then at the end, we'll talk about some next steps about where this process and strategic planning is going. So the objectives for the retreat, first, we really wanted to have time for board members to come together and clarify what the board's governance identity is and their role within the Mississippi charter school ecosystem. Second, we really wanted to make sure that the group, the board, was able to develop a shared understanding of what constitutes a high-quality charter school. And a result of the retreat was a definition of quality that Sarah's going to show later. And this is an item that the board does need to take action on and either revise or just prepare it for a vote to put it into practice. That this would be the board's definition of quality. Third, we went through a process of exploring how quality informs authorizing decisions across the charter school life cycle. And in that part of the session, we, thanks to the staff at the MCSAB, had a large board notebook that I'm hoping you all maybe have brought. It is very heavy, but it is a great resource for the board, and hopefully Jay and Ben have received their copies of the notebook. And today we'll go through and just kind of show how it can be used as a resource for you as well. And overall, this retreat, the objective was to strengthen consistency, transparency, and public trust in board decision making. So as we developed the materials for this retreat, we had 2 primary pieces of materials that we were working on in order to build out the retreat. The first one was a set of listening sessions. So Carrie Colley met with all of the board members and staff to talk through just what board members were hoping to get from this exercise, and going in on each of those areas about goals and clarity, about quality, and then also about decision making. So we had a lot of information from those quality interviews that we used to inform the retreat. We also went through a process of landscape scan and document review. So the landscape scan included looking at authorizer practices across the country and putting Mississippi in that context. And then also
We had to receive that.
all of the board's materials. And the staff, Jordan Regina, has put together just a great website for you all that has just a bounty of materials. And as we were going through that documentary, that was where we decided, perhaps these materials need to be put into that notebook, so you have easy access to them. Because they are all available, they are on the website, it's just sometimes it's like, where are they? And so the notebook was an exercise to pull all of that together and organize them. So the retreat was not an asylum. It was not the first time that this board has engaged in talking about quality and decision making. This really has been a process that started in 2023 when the board engaged in a self-assessment process with NCSI and did a board self-assessment, and then NCSI also did a board evaluation. So that report exists, it's in the notebook, it's also on the line. And it had some recommendations that have kind of guided the next steps within this process. There was a recommendation to define quality. And so in 2024, 2025, the board came together to discuss and bring people from around the Mississippi sector, as well as across the nation, to talk about quality. And then the retreat in 2026 that we just engaged in, that was really trying to pull it all together and come out with that definition of quality and then some steps for how to use that in board decision. All right, so moving now into a summary of the first session where we covered governance, identity, and board. The objective within this session was to really kind of describe the board's role within the larger charter school ecosystem and distinguish the roles and responsibilities of the board compared to other stakeholders who are also engaged in the ecosystem. And then identifying just the core responsibilities of the board and putting that in context to what other organizations within the ecosystem. So at the retreat, we didn't have a great presentation from Dr. Bass, but she really kind of laid it out that there are other organizations doing a lot of work within this charter school ecosystem. So we have this graphic here that shows all the different ways that organizations can help charter schools in Mississippi. I believe that in your board handout for today, we also have this, I think it's like a 5 to 6 page document that shows all of these types of ways that organizations can be involved in charter schools and lists the organizations that are doing this work. And what we showed in that document and also on this slide is that there's some overlap. There are some organizations that are doing multiple things. Dr. Bass kind of elegantly talked about that in terms of not only providing technical assistance, but also engaging in some of the incubation work through that launch. And we put organizations, so we may not have this first year on here as an incubator, but they are also involved in that work. But I think also what this slide shows and what that handout shows is where the board's responsibility lies. And it's in that first column. The board is entirely responsible for authorizing charter schools and holding them accountable. That is the lane of the board. And these other organizations are doing the work of advocacy, public awareness, authorizer support and governance, school incubation and launch support, the funding, growth, and replication of charter schools, technical assistance, and facility support. So the board may be a partner with these other organizations, but the board's lane in terms of roles and responsibility is in authorizing and accountability. And that leads to then the core responsibilities. So we're talking about the 4 buckets of Mississippi Forest. These would be the 4 buckets of the board. The first is authorizing. So the board is setting clear expectations and making evidence-based decisions about who enters, expands within, and remains in the charter school portfolio in Mississippi. The second is accountability and oversight. The board is monitoring school performance, protecting school autonomy, and intervening when necessary when expectations are not met. The third is stewardship, putting students first, safeguarding public trust, and ensuring responsible use of public resources. And then the fourth is strategic direction, establishing priorities, policies, and long-term goals that guide authorizing decisions in Mississippi and organizational effectiveness. So I'm going to pause there because we're going to now move into session 2, which is defining quality. I just wanted to see if anybody has comments, questions, and discussion among board members just want to leave some space.
Any questions? No, I don't see any questions.
Questions?
I've received my binder though, so maybe I'll have questions after that.
Great, please.
Glad to hear it. All right, thank you, Anna, for pulling the slides for me. Our next session in the retreat was entirely focused on defining quality, and really as a group, we were centered on what does that mean and what is it, how we define it. And so our main objectives were to identify the characteristics and outcomes that define a high-quality charter school in Mississippi, and to really hone in on this developed, shared definition of quality that can inform your authorizing oversight and accountability decisions. Really, if you could wrap up this session in one question, it would be one in bold here at the bottom. What do we mean when we say a charter school is high quality? And so why does this matter? We spent some time talking about what would a shared definition of quality do? And while acknowledging that every single board member, you all bring your own valuable experience and perspectives into this work, having a shared definition of quality would help to ensure consistency across schools and over time, increase transparency, not only for schools, but for families and the public, and help to ensure that decisions are grounded in evidence, and to make some of your outcomes more defensible in the event that there are difficult or controversial decisions, and keeping that focus on the students and communities that you're designed to serve. And like Anna mentioned earlier, you guys have done so much work prior to us showing up at the retreat, and I think really our job was to help put it all in perspective and emphasize all of this hard work that the board has already done. And that really came through in a lot of the group conversations that we were having during this session around what does a high quality charter school look like, what does that mean to us? And your performance framework really laid the groundwork for that. And it was really exciting to see the different group activities as different teams were working together, trying to tease out this idea of quality and going back again over and over again to that performance framework where we really focused on academic performance, the financial performance, and the organizational performance. And you guys all have that to refer to in your big giant binder as well. And so we presented a sort of generic definition to get everyone started, and then we broke out into teams, and that's where everyone really got in and started chopping things up and, picking out the things that they agreed with, the things that they disagreed with, and what they would adapt or change to really hone in on definitions specific to your group. And by the end of the activities, we landed on this definition. So those of you that were there, this should look fairly familiar. Your definition by the end of the day was a high-quality charter school authorized by NCSAB is one that demonstrates student success, effective governance, sound fiscal management, and is aligned with the mission and vision for the students that you all serve. And this is where we landed for the day. And so this shared definition, by the end of the session, really helped us to frame this idea of a shared standard. So having this shared definition that the groups have agreed on really allows for expectations to become clearer and discussions to become more focused. And you can really see that happening. So for those of you that weren't there during the retreat, we had broken the board and our members up into two teams. And they developed their own unique definitions of quality, and then we swapped, and each group got to give each other feedback, and we picked out where we were aligned to create this shared definition, and you can really see just going through those exercises how much more focused our discussions got, just going through the process of developing this definition. And then it also helps that, it creates this environment where evidence can be interpreted through that common lens. So it kind of puts everybody on the same page, as you will, and that sort of operationalization helps to build consistency, transparency, and ultimately public trust with not only the students and families you serve, but all of the other organizations as well in that ecosystem. And so next steps for you all in regards to just the definition of quality or shared understanding is that you will need to vote on this new definition of quality in order to formally adopt it for the purposes of decision making moving forward. And as Anna did, I'll pause there. I know that's a lot of information for you guys to absorb fairly quickly, so please let me know if you guys have any questions at all.
Anybody have any questions? No, you have it easy today. There's no questions.
Well, if you think of anything, don't hesitate to raise your hand or interrupt. We're happy to jump in.
So the third session of the retreat was putting that decision or the definition of quality into practice. So how are we going to use it through decision making across the charter school lifecycle? And the objectives in this session were to apply that definition and then to explore how the different materials like the frameworks, policies, and tools can support consistent and transparent decision making. So we got a little graphic of just the different ways that the board makes decisions. And not every charter school will go through this full life cycle, but there are some components that are common. The process of applications where you're making decisions around the approval and denial. And then once the school is open, you are making decisions about renewal or removal conditions. You may have to intervene in charter schools if things happen in terms of the intervention ladder. Charter schools may apply to expand, and decisions are there. And then in some rare instances, you might have charter schools that merge, again, creating some decision-making components, and then closure in worst-case scenarios if schools have not met their accountability requirements. So your authority is exercised through these high-stakes decisions. And the decisions change throughout that life cycle, but the definition of what high-quality charter school looks like should not change throughout that life cycle. And every one of these decisions that you make is shaping the quality of the ecosystem, the charter school sector within Mississippi. Now this slide, and we can provide a printout of this if necessary, but this one is linking to that board notebook where you can find materials around each of these decisions that the board makes. So we've got the decisions listed in the first column, and then the second column talks about what types of tools exist in order to help make those decisions. And they're numbered, and the numbers correspond with the notebook. So it's very well organized. Again, thank you to Jordan and to Bree for helping to get this ready for the retreat. It was a big ask. It was a lot of printing. Hopefully it will be useful to the board as you. And it is adaptable. You can, as the board makes decisions, some materials may be refined, revised, and those can then be taken out and swapped out for new materials as needed. At the end of this session, we worked through, you all have a decision-making document it's number 19 in the notebook, and we worked through whether or not that decision-making questions to be used by the board needed to be adapted, and there were some great recommendations. So in the final report we present you in September, it will include a revised handout on that. And mostly it will include just a new section because the handout currently doesn't have questions related to quality. And so the new section within that handout will include those questions to really tie this all together. You have definition of quality, you have decisions you're making, and so the retreat ended going through these three main sessions: the control theory, the shared definition of quality, the decision framework. And so the next steps, I just want to give a little bit of a roadmap. And so after that June retreat that we had, so basically we have been working on compiling not only the learnings that we had prior to the retreat, from the listening sessions, from the document review, from the landscape scan, but also putting together our notes on retreat reflections. And we are going to be generating a comprehensive report for the board. We will have that for review early September, and then it will be presented at the September board meeting. Just wanted to put it on here again, Sarah mentioned you all will be taking action on your definition of quality, just put there in the school year. You have to decide what the process and timeline will be for that. But then ongoing, the hope for all of this work is that the definition of quality and all of these materials coming together, understanding the board's role, using quality to make decisions, that this will become a standard for the board in terms, and we will use these materials to rely on for all of our authorizing decisions. We very much appreciate the partnership with you all, and if things come up, it's kind of a quiet group today, if there are questions, concerns, we are open to talking by phone, by Zoom, by email. Please reach out to us if you have any questions.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
It's from the retreat.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
so, yeah, thank you for a great day. Thank you for flying out to us, and I think it was a great and informative day. So we appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank y'all.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the Executive Director Report, Dr. Karmatara.
Okay, I believe that we are actually ready for Dr. Dixon. So.
Oh, I didn't see that, sorry.
He's been patient.
Oh.
Thank you, John.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon to Dr. K, Board Chair Hunt, to board members, to the public. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. For those of you that I have not had the privilege of meeting, my name is Dr. John Dixon, and I have the privilege of serving as Executive Director of the Mississippi Charter Schools Association. And I thought it would be important to start with a story. Now, 10 years ago, I started as a charter school principal and assistant principal working in Baton Rouge, and I was introduced to this story called What Do You Do with the Problem? And while I enjoy a really good read aloud, I will spare you all my read aloud today, but I would like to share the gist of this story as I've shared this story with my board members, with our school leaders, and I'll offer it to you all. In this story, the young character is afraid of problems. He ignores them at every turn until he decides to face his problem. And when he faces his problem, he realizes and discovers something beautiful, and that's every problem has an opportunity. Board members, I joined the association in August of 2025, and as I'm sure you can imagine, I had my share of problems that I experienced leading the association. When I looked inward, I knew that we needed to strengthen our board. So for the past year, we've worked to do that, and so I'm proud to share that we have a stronger board. I'm joined by my board chair, Nick Lott, who's here. Wait for the crowd. And then also, when I looked inward, I knew that we needed a team. Our mission is here on the slide for you, and as you can see, we exist to strengthen, support, and advocate for high-quality charter schools in Mississippi. And we do that through capacity building, technical assistance, policy leadership, and stakeholder engagement. But I knew I could not do that work alone, and I needed a team. And so I'm also excited to share over the past year that we've built a team. I'm joined here by our operations and data manager, Andrea Hopkins, if you'll wait for the crowd. She is a Jackson native and has been with us since May. And then I'm really excited to share with you all the newest addition of our team, Mr. Tim Abram. He's here in the front. He is a Horn Lake native, and he's joining us as Senior Director of Advocacy. Tim also brings a ton of experience. Previously, he's worked for the National Alliance of Public Charter Schools, Excel in Ed, and Charter School Growth Fund, many of the ecosystem partners that I know this board has been thinking a lot about. And so that was the work that I needed to do with the organization, but then I looked outward and I knew that we had to ask a different question. The organization that I have the privilege of leading has been around since 2013, and so we have a mission, but I also knew that we needed to ask a different question. And so when I looked out to our schools and to the sector, and I used this story and the lens from this, the question that I kept coming back to is, what does it take for our charter schools in Mississippi to thrive? So if you'll go to the next slide, here's how we've answered that question over the past year. We believe in Mississippi, it requires us to really think about the conditions for schools to be successful. So at the association, we have worked to bring our schools together through convenings because we've heard directly from our charter school leaders that they are desired to be in community with each other, to share best practices, to be able to collaborate. So we've done that. We also have connected our school leaders with technical experts who we know are the best in the business to be able to continue to develop their capacity. We also know that this board cares about ensuring that more students across the state have access to quality options. And so we've been working really hard to develop deeper relationships with legislators, but also to connect the dots to ensure that legislators hear directly from our schools. And then one of the things I'm really most proud of is our partnership with the University of Mississippi. And so this year, we have forged a partnership with the University of Mississippi, and that partnership is important because strong schools require strong leaders. Sorry about that. What's especially meaningful to me about this partnership is the fact that I was once a doctoral student at Ole Miss 5 years ago. And during that time, when I was a doctoral student, I came back to Mississippi with an eagerness and passion to study charter schools. But at Ole Miss, I struggled to find support, to find interest, or find folks that really wanted to provide me with that support. But I'm excited to say today that has changed. Dean Rock and the faculty at the University of Mississippi are excited about this partnership because they see it as being an opportunity for them to partner with our schools to help us in strengthening the leadership pipeline for our charter school students, for our charter schools and for our charter school students. I'm also really excited about this partnership because it reflects something that I've become increasingly convinced about over the past year, and that's the following. If we're going to strengthen Mississippi's charter sector, we have to strengthen the ecosystem around our schools. We have to close the knowledge gap that still exists, the knowledge gaps that exist with higher education, with community leaders, with the broader public. And I know that this board cares about that as well. In December 2025, you all released a public perceptions report. And in that report, it confirmed what many of us already know. Too many Mississippians still do not know what charter schools are. For example, many people don't know that our K-8 charter school students are outperforming their traditional school district peers in science in every community where we have charter schools. Little people know, very few people know that our schools have experienced enrollment growth in a time when traditional school districts have not. Little people know that our schools are also continuing to make progress over time and that they don't know who our students are that we serve. In partnership with the Tennessee Charter School Center, Jordan, if you can go to the next slide, we've worked to do something about that. We believe in Mississippi, there's an opportunity for us to tell a more complete picture. Now, I want to be clear, letter grades are important. And letter grades is something that the association we care about, and we want to partner with our member schools, the schools in your portfolio, to do something about it. But we also know that letter grades are not the full, complete picture of what's happening in our charter schools. And so as you can see, we have developed, in partnership with the Tennessee Charter School Center, a sector comparison dashboard. And that dashboard allows us to tell a more fuller story of what's happening in our charter schools. We provided this dashboard to our ecosystem partners at Empower, Embark, Mississippi First, National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. And this dashboard is also something we would like to provide to you all as board members and to the authorizer staff, because we believe we all have a responsibility and an opportunity to really help to shape the way the public views and thinks about the work of charter schools. So if we can go to the last slide, I'll close with this. Our vision at the association is a thriving, equitable public education ecosystem in Mississippi where charter schools expand opportunity, deliver excellent outcomes for all students, and are embraced as valued partners in the state's educational landscape. This is our North Star at the association, and I invite you all as board members, our ecosystem partners, in helping us to achieve that vision for our sector. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry, say it again. Are you next? I'm just going to invite Ross now to do the Ethics Commission. So,
Okay.
yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ross.
All right.
Okay. Next on the agenda.
I guess word got out that I was talking today and all these people showed up.
That's
So, yeah, my name's Ross Hammonds. I'm the Assistant Director and Counsel for the Mississippi Ethics Commission. We're a small little agency. We're in the IHL building over off of Lakeland and Ridgewood Road. My boss is Tom Hood. He's the Executive Director and Chief Counsel, but Lisa asked me to come today and talk about two of the areas of law that we have jurisdiction over, the Ethics in Government, as well as the Open Meetings Act. So if you'll pull the slide up, there's a lot of these slides. I'm gonna move through them. You can go ahead and go to the second one. So like I mentioned, we have three functions. First is the ethics and government laws. We keep statements of economic interest. Those are statutorily individuals that have to file annually, disclosing where they get their income from, not how much income, but where their family derives their income. It's them, their spouse, anyone over the age of 21 that lives in their house that makes over $2,500 a year from a specific location, as well as companies and businesses where they have interest in and income. Second thing is we investigate alleged violations of the ethics and government laws. I'm going to go into that in more detail. The third function under the ethics and government laws is we issue written advisory opinions to public servants who can write with us with a question. It's confidential, so for purposes of once those opinions are published, it's anything related to that specific individual is taken out, published on our website. If the facts presented by the public servant are truthful and they rely on those, the commission's opinion saying that no violation will occur, they're immune from liability. The other function we have is the Open Meetings Act, which I'm going to go into, and then we do have jurisdiction of the Public Records Act. One caveat about the difference between those: for purposes of the Open Meetings Act, any complaint that gets filed pursuant to that provision of law has to come to the Ethics Commission first. Public Records Act, individuals can file public records complaints with us, or they can go straight to Chancery Court. So we have much more Public Records Act complaints than we do open meetings, but that's a slight difference in those two. And then the fourth function we do, we issue advisory opinions on campaign finance law. We kind of have dual roles with that with the Secretary of State's office, but we do have a little bit to do with that. You can go to the next slide, please. I think I just covered that. You can go to the next one. Okay, this is the complaint process of the ethics and government laws that I'll explain what some of those specific violations would be, but individuals have to file a sworn complaint with the commission. It cannot be anonymous. Once that complaint is filed, regardless of what the allegations are, the complaint goes to the Ethics Commission to make a determination of whether probable cause exists to believe that an allegation is even being made. You can imagine we get a lot of complaints about individuals who may not be conducting themselves the right way, but not giving rise to an ethics and government violation. So those get dismissed, but nonetheless, every complaint does have to go to the commission for a kind of a kick in the tires to see if it does allege a violation at all. Once a confidential investigation is authorized, the commission, we have a staff that goes out, and again, strictly confidential, puts a report together. At some point, the respondent, the person the complaint is made about, they get a copy of it. They have 30 days to file a response. You can go to the next slide. Once that confidential investigation is concluded, it goes to the commission to determine whether probable cause exists to believe that a violation has occurred. From there, there are different paths it can take. Directing commission staff, which is me, to try to settle the matter. If that's not possible, we can hold hearings to determine guilt, impose penalties. Appeals go to Hinds County Circuit Court. The commission has the ability to fine up to $10,000 per violation, and we can recommend that the Hinds County Circuit Court remove either a board member or any public servant. So that's kind of the enforcement side of what we do. If you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, I think I covered that. You can go to the next one. Yeah, go to the next one. This is going to get into what we call the 8 basic prohibitions. I'm going to go into some of these in more detail. Board member contracts, which is the big one. I'm going to go into that more. Use of office, I'll go into that. Contracting, purchasing goods and services. State law says that no public servant can participate in a sale that is authorized by their public body. The example of that from a school standpoint, like a school board member couldn't go buy a surplus school bus and take it to the deer camp, or the football coach couldn't, the school district's getting new weightlifting equipment, and they're selling it off. The football coach couldn't go buy that. You can't have an interest. 2 exceptions. One is public utilities. Another would be if there's a sale that's being offered by the governmental body on a uniform pricing schedule. Kind of the small example of that is just because you work at Ole Miss doesn't mean you can't go to the bookstore or buy football tickets, right? Purchasing securities, you can't purchase any type of security that's offered by your governmental body. Insider lobbying, you can't get paid on the outside to then come in and influence a decision that's being made on the inside. Post-government point, I'm going to cover that one in more detail. Then that last one, insider information, that says that no public servant, it comes up with board members more than anything, taking information that you learn confidentially and then leaking it or telling somebody or even using it for your own benefit to make money on the outside based off that confidential information. That comes up a lot in executive session. People will, hey, I learned about this in executive session. They go tell somebody you know, and somebody turns around and sues the board based off that information. So, but yeah, you go to the next slide. I'll get into the more specific one. This is the big one. This is section 109 of the state constitution. It's also codified in 25.4.1052. But it says no public officer or member of the legislature. So this is board members. Anybody who's on a board, you can't be interested directly or indirectly in any contract that's authorized by your board while you're on that board or 1 year after that. That is that's in the state constitution. It's not in the state statute. In the 80s, they tried to tinker with that. It failed twice. If you can go to that next one, there's a little bit more information on that. Again, it only applies to members of boards and legislatures. There must be some sort of contract, but it doesn't have to be a written contract. And the conflict arises when the board funds that contract or authorizes that contract. A recusal cannot alleviate a violation here. So even if the individual member doesn't vote, if they're not there, if that board votes to authorize a contract in a way that would have a direct or indirect benefit to that board member, they violated the state constitution and that statute. And again, it continues until a board member has been out of office for 1 year. Go to that next one. I think there's some more information on that. Go back up to that. Stay on that one. The way we explain this one is to think about it's like a circle. If a board member is voting on something that is somehow going to put money back in that board member's pocket or that board member's spouse's pocket, so it could be directly to them, it could be to a business that they're associated with, it could be a business that they have a financial interest in, and it could be a business that their spouse has an interest in. The state Supreme Court years ago said that it's inevitable that an individual has an indirect interest in their spouse's income. So when we get into the next statutory provision, there's something there. We'll talk about recusals and how a recusal can alleviate a violation for purposes of your spouse, and obviously businesses that a board member is associated with. A recusal is not going to do any good for you. I think this is an advisory opinion that we have. Charter School Governing Board may not do business with a board member's employer, right? So I think in this slide deck are just examples of those advisory opinions that we've issued. Go to the next one. The spouse of a school board member now be employed as a substitute teacher by a company which contracts. Again, the school board member is sitting up there. He's voting on a contract for temp staff or whoever the sub that his wife or the spouse works as a substitute teacher. She's getting a check. He's paying a claims docket. That money's coming right back to him. So that's the gist of that violation. And then public board can't contract with a firm that employs the spouse of a board member. Again, pretty straightforward opinions on these. This is the statute that's a little different. No public servant. So this isn't just board members. This is board members, obviously, but this could be teachers, principals, superintendents. No public servant can use their official position to obtain or attempt to obtain a pecuniary benefit for themselves or their compensation for by law. This is the big one, or obtain or attempt to obtain a pecuniary benefit for their relative or their business that they're associated with. And again, that is obviously going to apply to board members, but as well as teachers, anybody in a supervisory role. So the examples that the commission has given is recommending your relatives for employment, supervising your relatives, filling out timesheets for your relatives, performance reviews for your relatives. I mean, that you're using your position and exercising authority over your relatives. So that's what that one is. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so the statute doesn't require a public servant to misuse his or her position. There's no intent, doesn't matter in this world. However, to avoid a violation, a public servant can totally and completely recuse themselves from the matter, giving rise to the conflict. The example of that would be if you have a financially independent, if you're on a board and you have a financially independent relative, you can recuse yourselves. If you're on board, it's the annual time where we're going to rehire everybody. Okay, well, you need to pull your relative off, put them on a separate list, and get up and leave the room, right? Because that matter that's being voted on is you're authorizing your relative's employment for the next year where they're going to get a paycheck. Similarly, with things we've seen on the school side, if there's like a special matter on an agenda where they're hiring summer school care or they're paying a claims docket for people that taught different types of courses that would have some type of supplement to it, again, need to recuse yourself from those matters. And then at the bottom, I'll get into recusal and prevent other violations. You can go to the next slide. Just the relatives, your spouse, your children, your parent, and then your siblings, and then the spouses of those people. It gets a little complicated. So the spouse of basically your in-laws, if it's your relative's significant other, then that would be your relative, but your spouse's side of the family isn't your relative. It gets a little complicated, but there is a distinction there. You can go to the next slide. I just explained that again. That's the financially independent. A board member could recuse themselves. There'd be no violation. That's just the definition of business which they're associated with. Again, mostly if you're getting more than $2,500 in annual income, you can't be using your position to put money in that business's pocket through your job. So you can go to the next slide. Business owned by the financially independent son. He can get a contract, but again, because they're financially independent, the board member just needs to recuse himself. So that's the gist on that one. This is what's called the contractor prohibition. No public servant. You can't be a contractor, subcontractor, or vendor with a governmental entity or have a material financial interest in a company that's a contractor, subcontractor, or vendor. Again, that comes up. Again, like a public servant himself, you can't work for the school district and then on the side get a second job as a contractor. You can't be a vendor. Go to the next one. Executive director of a nonprofit that's a subcontractor to the board can't be a member of the board at the same time. That would probably be a Section 109 violation as well. There are some exceptions to that, to the contractor, subcontractor, or vendor prohibition. Namely, is you can do work for a different authority of the government. The example on that is like counties and cities more. Is like if I work for the police department and there's some completely other authority of government, you could do work for that one. They have to be separate and bifurcated. And the next one is it's a spousal exception. If the spouse works for the governmental entity, as long as the spouse doesn't exercise any control over the contract, then it's okay. The post-government employment, really the middle of that one is public servants are prohibited leaving public service and going work in the private sector on the same case, decision, proceeding, or application that they worked on. That is a very fact-specific analysis, as you can imagine. But again, the concept is someone leaving government office and immediately going and getting paid in the private sector for what they were doing in the public sector. So you can go to the next one. I think I just said exactly what that is. So you can go to the next one. Yeah, that's a pretty straightforward. That one just gets real fact specific of, is it the same case, decision, and to what extent are they involved in it now? But we issue a lot of advisory opinions on that one. You can go to the next slide. We should begin. Yep, open meetings. I can get through this pretty quickly. You can go ahead and go to that one.
And I was just going to say, we have one board member out, so can we just hang tight till he gets?
Yeah, that's fine, man.
Thank you. I know he may have had to take a call, but.
Yeah, so we enforce the Open Meetings Act as well. We get complaints filed with us. It's sent to the public body that can respond. We can dismiss the case, make a preliminary finding, or hold a hearing. We can order public bodies to comply with the law. We can impose $500 fines for first offenses, $1,000 fines after that. We mediate disputes, not as much on the Open Meetings Act of mediating disputes. That's more the public record side. But sometimes they come in and it's a legitimate kind of, maybe misunderstanding of what's going on. And then again, either party can appeal in a local chancery court, and it's a de novo review at that point. So the basics: public meetings must be open to the public. Executive session has to follow specific procedures and go through those, or it can lead to a violation. Notices of meetings must be given and minutes must be kept. Social gatherings are not meetings unless official business is discussed. And then one thing that's kind of misunderstood. The act never requires executive session, right? The Open Meetings Act lays out specific reasons why a public body can go into executive session. But a lot of times people will call and say, well, they were supposed to discuss that in executive session. They should have discussed that in executive session, but they didn't. So that's kind of a confusion. You can go to the next slide. So yeah, what is a meeting? That one comes up a lot. This is a case that was about 10 years ago. This was a case where the mayor was a 6-person board, and the mayor wanted to talk about economic development, and there were 6 board members. So he set up over a period of, I think, about a month, a series of rolling meetings where he'd meet with 3 of them in the morning and 3 of them in the afternoon. And complaint got filed with the commission. It was appealed in Chancery Court, went to State Supreme Court. State Supreme Court said the Ethics Commission got it right. Deliberations of a quorum must take place in a proper public meeting, and when a quorum splits into separate groups and discusses the same matter of business with the same people, that is a quorum deliberating. A meeting has occurred. It is a blatant circumvention of the Open Meetings Act. So again, about 10-year-old case, but we get that one a lot. Well, they'll say, well, people are breaking off, and there's 7 of them, 4 of them are getting together, or 3 of them are getting together, and when they walk in there, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, everything's already done. That's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So you can go to the next slide. Retreats conducted by a Board of Aldermen, meetings subject to the Open Meetings Act. Even though official action is taken at a meeting, minutes must be kept. And then again, when the Open Meetings Act committees established by the board that are authorized to conduct business of the city, they're going to be subject to the Open Meetings Act. The gist of that one is it doesn't matter what you call it. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So that was what that case was about. You can go to the next slide. Email. This one comes up a good bit. Email exchanges among a quorum of board about a matter under the authority. That is a meeting. That is a quorum deliberating. We advise, especially staff that sends out like agenda material, blind copying the board members. So a lot of these violations can be accidental. A board member will actually hit reply all with their full thoughts about the agenda coming up, and they've shared that with the entire board. So if you blind copy, someone hits reply all, it's only going to go to the people that are to as well as carbon copied. So, and again, board members should avoid using email to communicate with each other about board business. And then you can go to the next slide. Telephonic meetings, all members can participate by phone. They can be in different locations, but in this case, somebody would have to be in this room with the equipment where the board normally meets and allow members of the board to hear. Votes must be clearly audible and visible, which y'all did a great job of this morning, or I guess after lunch. But you can go to the next slide. I think y'all kind of got these. There's you can skip through these procedures. The gist of this one is it's kind of complicated, but the Supreme Court has said because you're going into the private, talk about public business, it should be somewhat onerous and time consuming. So we have a script that we use at the Ethics Commission, and it makes it easy. So yeah, you can skip through these procedure ones. It's pretty, yeah, you can keep going. Executive session reasons. Y'all probably got some specific ones that would apply to y'all. The big one we get into is the public body has to state a meaningful reason with sufficient specificity so that the audience will later be able to check it out. This comes up a lot on personnel matters and litigation, right? It can't be personnel matters. It could be personnel matters related to administrative staff and performance of job duties, right? That would be something enough. Litigation, it could be, it's form over substance, because it could be litigation related to a contract dispute where discussions in open public would have a detrimental position on the board litigating position, something like that, right? So again, personnel matters or litigation, a lot of small public bodies, they get complaints filed on them for that. So you can go to the next slide. I think y'all really for purpose of the charter school board discussions and problems with students, parents, or teachers, that is a specific justification to go into executive session, as well as others, personnel, security matters, misconduct, violations of law, stuff like that. So what's that next one? Notice, time and place should be set in the minutes if it's not statutorily set. research, adjourned interim special meetings has to be posted within 1 hour of the meeting being called, and copies of the notice must be placed in the minutes, which I think y'all mentioned earlier. You can go to the next slide. Minutes must be kept, whether in open or executive session, be recorded within 30 days, and must be available for public inspection. It's pretty. And then members present, absent, where it is, recording of final action taken, votes taken, any other information requested by the requested or required by the public body. We were down at MML and came up, we heard some, there were some recent Supreme Court cases where some stuff, they were like the minutes rule was in place. So we're starting to kind of tell people now there may be specific things related to the types of boards. I know on like some of the school board side, if they're not bringing somebody back for like the rehire, they have to put in the minutes why they're not bringing them back. So there's some instances where the minute can require a little bit more. All right, I think I'm almost done. Public body, this is one that comes up a lot. Public body can't ban cameras or recording devices, but they can make reasonable rules to enforce them. Somebody wants to, get in personal space, that wouldn't be allowed, but someone wants to sit in the back and record the meeting, they're allowed to do that. I think there's one more about public participation. Yeah, public body, they're not required to let people talk at meetings. A lot of public bodies will have a public comment, 10 people, 3 minutes apiece, it's 30 minutes. People call, they won't let me talk at meetings. You don't have a right to speak at a public meeting. So that one comes up a good bit. I think that's it. That's probably the most important, is if y'all have questions, y'all can give us a call or shoot us an email. But yeah, thanks for having me today. I just wanted to let you know who we are. A lot of people don't know. So
I just want to make sure you cover that our schools are also subject.
Yes.
That's the main.
Yeah. And we've got about 7 or 8 opinions out there. There's one from 2000 where the commission kind of laid out the analysis of why charter schools are subject to the ethics and government laws. I can send those to you if you want to disperse them. But yes, subject to the state's ethics and government laws, open meetings, public records. So it is relevant. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ross.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
I've got to run. But yeah, if y'all need anything, just give us a call.
You got to say, man, it's hot in here.
It's
Yeah. It's toasty.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for your patience with that. It is hot. But we do that, periodically, just so we can ensure that you all are aware and are protected, because it's important that everybody be aware of the rules and the statutes that apply to open meetings and ethics as a board member. So that is for your protection. So, all right, we ready?
For your report?
Yeah. The last thing on mine is just the supplemental renewal resource document. So that was just developed to go along with the renewal policy. So that's it. I can turn it over.
Okay. All right. Next, we have the financial report. Mrs. D. Rosette, you want to make your report?
Tell Candace I was going to borrow her. So this time of year, it's really hard to give a financial report. Can y'all hear me now? Okay. In my world, we're working in 3 separate years. We're closing out FY26. We're opening up FY27, and we're planning for FY28. And the FY28 budget has to be reported and given to the legislature on August 3rd. And so there's lots of information right here. And so trying to figure out how to best show it to y'all became very difficult for me to try to condense it. Were y'all given a copy of the actual budget that looks like this?
No, it's not like that. It's just what you sent for the board packet.
It was in the board packet.
This is,
Yes.
that one is, yes.
Okay, so that may be the easiest place to look, because when we give the legislature the FY28 budget, we have to show them what we spent in 26. We have to show them what was appropriated in 27. And then we have to tell them what we're asking for in 28. And so it is difficult because we still have bills outstanding that we can pay against FY26 through about mid-August. And there are a couple outstanding, but we have a pretty good handle on that. So we estimate that. I tell people all the time, the budget is a budget. It's not an accounting document. So it's a planning document. So at the end of FY26, you have this in the budget, but you also have your normal report. So if you look,
It'll list all.
you have a normal report that looks like this, as well as the budget report, if you want more detail of what you've spent since your last meeting. But since the last meeting, you've spent 208,000, a little bit more than that. And the majority of that, again, is in salaries, but there were a few contracts that you were cleaning up and finishing up for the year. So those got paid. When we do the FY28 budget, sometimes we look at what you've done in we've already planned for what you're going to have for your FY27 budget. And y'all went ahead and approved that FY27 budget in your last meeting. But as we prepare the FY28 and start looking at the full FY26, we see some adjustments that may need to be made. And so Lisa and I work together to do that. And so what we've got in your FY27 budget is a few modifications that we'd like for you to look at today as well. And so you have a separate document that is your FY27 budget that has some blue highlights on it. And so I just want to just touch base really quickly. What we decided is that we had originally put in that you would have 15,000 like in travel. And we decided that you really didn't need that. We reduced it by 5,000. We figured out there were other places that you could use some money. And so we reduced the travel for FY27. We reduced the communications because we had a line item for $15,000. But we don't really see that you'll need that because you did so much work on your website and things like that last year. We felt like you needed to increase your court reporter cost. And so what we did here is just highlighted things in blue that we had made modifications to. And then we pulled those modifications in to your FY28 budget. Then when you look at your FY28, what the legislature looks at is they want to know what we've appropriated you and what's different. So you're looking really at FY27 to FY28. And so that's really where I'd like to focus because that's what y'all need to approve for us to send to the legislature next Monday. What we did in here was put in a 3% salary increase for the staff and increased the fringe benefit rates. We know that the fringe rate for retirement is going up another 0.5% in FY28. So that'll bring it from 18.9%, another 5.5%. And then we also know health insurance is going up in the current year. So we built that into that 3%. And so the increase in your salaries is $28,715,000. And then overall, we increased the budget for $87,857. And what we primarily did in that is we found a few places we could reduce some of the items that we talked about, like you don't need the communications year. But there are some things that we would like to do for the schools. And so there's some things that we put in for that. We knew that we had overspent our contractual budget, our commodity budget, because we started doing the back to school events. And those events, you were helping the schools do some things like and then you also are buying books for the schools. So we felt like the commodity budget should be higher because that would benefit the schools. And then Dr. Comacheri noticed that there were some things that we only did at a minor level in the previous years, but that's like doing some technical assistance and kind of monitoring, going out and monitoring the schools for transportation, for facilities, child nutrition, things like that. So we built in some of that into the budget. And what you typically have done in the past several years is you have a budget bucket of a certain amount. And then as you enter into a contract, you take that money out of the budget and put it in from that bucket into a line item. And so we tried to show that to the legislature as well. So I thought, as y'all look at this, it gets confusing because it goes from a summary level into a detail level into a more detail level. And so that first page really doesn't tell you much, but if you go in through it, you'll start seeing some of the differences. I talked about the fact that we have reduced a few areas, but thought it might be good for you to see that we reduced the contract with the CPA. What you have in FY27 is your balance of the contract from last year was brought forward, and we don't think you'll need that entire amount. So we took that down 15,000. We added TA support for a public survey that we don't have in 27, that we have in 2028. And then I've already mentioned that a lot of this already. So emerging needs for the schools, as you add more schools, there might be some things that come up. So we just put a bucket of 75,000 in for that. And then some of the things that you have been budgeting in the past, we took out of the budget because the staff now has the capability of doing that, maybe the pre-opening support. And so overall, I think this is a very realistic budget for what you're going to present to the legislature, and it gives you a better idea of what you've got for FY27. I know that's it in a quick note, but do y'all have any questions? I know you have it as a business thing new business to approve this, but I'm supposed to be in another board meeting. So I don't know if I need to stay for that while y'all approve it. Are you okay? Okay. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Denise.
Okay, so we don't need
You're
to,
going to
we don't need to
air
approve.
I don't know. I'm
There's
still in the
air,
building.
I was like, I'm like completely comfortable.
Consider
Are you
approving the
comfortable? I'm
financial
totally
report.
comfortable. Sorry, y'all.
The air is on. We turn it back on.
Just following protocol and a coat, you know. Show up in a golf shirt.
With us doing the budget amendments, or you need to report to?
She kind of talked about
I did talk about it. That's what that
Yeah.
blue thing was for.
where we moved things around in
Okay, so we're
27.
good for the budget amendments. We don't need to adopt that.
We can do that later on.
Yeah, I think, when you
Yeah.
adopt the report, you're adopting all three of those.
So we just wait to do it later.
But during a C and D, we can.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
specific action on those.
Gotcha. Just make sure.
I don't know if y'all want to do that going forward, to adopt them as new business, or if you just adopt
Yeah.
the report as part of the report.
Thank you.
you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, next we have the committee report, the applications committee. Erin?
I'll just be brief. We met, I guess, a couple weeks ago. And we gave the community, our different charter partners, an opportunity to be recognized by the committee and provide their input, their feedback as it relates to the performance framework and the application and guidance document. Dr. K did a presentation, and then we heard from several, and it was, pretty well attended. And yeah, so that is now coming back for us to take action on. At this point, they've been given a few different avenues ahead of an official release to APA for comments to provide their input and their feedback.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Erin. Okay, next we have public comment. Mrs. Amanda Johnson, Executive Director of Clarksdale Collegiate, will provide comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I will go quickly. You guys are an hour and almost hour and a half in and haven't gotten to the action, so I will not take up much of your time. Forgive me for being in a t-shirt. Tonight is our biggest event of the year, Book Frenzy, but I needed to be here today, but I'm just there in spirit in my t-shirt, and kind of glad that I did since it's toasty. But thank you guys so much for giving me an opportunity to speak in front of you guys. I know you're going to talk about the renewal guidance this afternoon. During the applications meeting that Ms. Myers talked about earlier, I gave my comments and my feedback. My main feedback was that while there's lots of great things in the renewal guidance, and it has the potential to be really strong document for schools to follow when they go through the renewal process, I still believe that it's not clear, transparent, or predictable, because the things that it relies on the performance framework and the intervention ladder are not clear, transparent, predictable. During the committee meeting, I was asked, what about it is not predictable, or what do you still have questions for? And so we sent a letter. My lawyer, Stephen Fritz, sent a letter to board members. You should have received it ahead of today, basically telling you things that we still have not gotten answers for. And so just want to reiterate that. So one was asking for our performance framework to be changed. The financial document said that we were fails to meet expectations, although all of our underlying measures, not all of the underlying measures, but the underlying measures overwhelmingly state that we were meeting expectations. And even the document provided by the staff that says you use professional judgment. Yes, you use professional judgment to find more information, to ask more questions, to see what our financial health is. Our financial health is great. We've refinanced our loans. We ended with 121 days in cash. That's our preliminary end of year results. But having that red fails to meet expectations makes it look as though our school does not handle our financial matters properly. And all data says that we do. So asking for that to be corrected. Also asking for us to be removed from any intervention. I think just the big thing I want to point out to you guys is that the impact of the intervention ladder is huge. In order to refinance our loans, we needed to have a letter of good standing. We have not been able to get a letter of good standing from the authorizer in years, despite lots of the things that you'll see, the great things that you'll see that our school is doing in Clarksdale, our academic data. If you look at it, and I've asked for you guys to ask me questions, let's engage in it, come see the school, all of those pieces. But at the end of the day, I think if we were to have an honest conversation about where Clarksdale Collegiate is, how we're performing and what we are doing for kids in the Delta, you will see that we should be a school in good standing. So I'm asking that you take us off of the intervention ladder. And if we need to go on the intervention ladder, that it comes before the board for approval and recommendation. So asking for our performance framework from 24-25 to be corrected and asking to be removed from any intervention from the authorizing board staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Next, we have Dr. Christy Hendricks, Executive Director of Midtown Partners.
Good afternoon, and I'm going to try to stay on my script to stay within the 3 minutes. So good afternoon, Chair and board members. My name is Christy Hendricks, and I'm the Executive Director of Midtown Partners. We're the nonprofit that officially holds the charter for Midtown Public. I've been a part of this original team since 2014, so I've been here a long time, and back to the day when there wasn't even a staff for the charter authorizer. There was a board, there was little to no structure, and so we've learned a lot along the way, and a lot of the things that you've talked about, we have experienced. And so, there's been a lot of bumps along the way, but, I'm very hopeful for the future as we move forward. As you could see with the time that I've invested the many years and with the other operators, we're very invested in this process in the spirit of the charter school sector, in creating opportunities for our students that they might not otherwise have if it was not for us. I'm here today to comment on the proposed revisions to the charter renewal guidance. This is an abstract issue for us. Midtown Public will be up for renewal this cycle, which means whatever version of this guidance is in effect when our process begins is the one that we'll live under at the end of the year. So I want to speak both to the substance of the changes and to what predictability means for a school in our position. Overall, I want to say we support the direction of the revision. The changes aren't sweeping, but the shift they represent matters. The current process for renewal asks a renewing school to essentially rebuild its case from scratch with a lengthy narrative application, regardless of how the school has actually performed over time. That's actually up to 113 pages in the current renewal process without any proposed future changes. The proposed guidance moves away from that and is actually up to 17 pages, not including any ask for future changes. And it centers the renewal decision on the performance framework, on how a school has actually performed over time in the 3 major areas that you talked about even today, rather than how well it can re-argue its record in one new document. For schools that have been approaching or meeting expectations year after year, that's the right basis for the renewal decision. Additionally, it also appropriately lets us focus our time and attention on the things that matter, and that's making our schools better each day. That said, predictability is what makes this work. Schools need to know going in where they stand and what a given performance record will produce. I was an early proponent for establishing the initial performance framework because I appreciated a broader picture of the performance aside from just a letter grade. Don't get me wrong, the letter grade is important, but it's not always apples to apples in what's happening in our districts. For us, I can only speak for us with Jackson Public Schools. We are compared with JPS. Of course, they operate elementary, middle, and high school, and the large majority of our students are middle. So we're being compared at their 3 levels with our only 1 level. I did have some additional questions regarding what exactly the renewal recommendation would be based upon, so I did reach out to Dr. K. That's where the clarification was provided that the renewal recommendation would flow from the framework performance over time, and that the specific metrics achieved would directly signify the length of the proposed contract term, not to be a separate discretionary judgment layered on top of that. If that's the intent, then the revised renewal guidance and application is something that we would support. Every renewing school should be able to look at its own framework history and know with confidence what outcome that record points to. That clarity is what turns performance-based from a phrase into something schools can actually plan around. On behalf of Midtown Partners, we appreciate the board's work on this revision, and we're always glad to serve as a resource in moving forward.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hendricks. Next, we have Elise Marlesino, Director of Embark.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elise Marcelino. I'm the director of Embark. For anyone who doesn't know, we find, guide, and invest in new school founders in Mississippi. And over the past about 3 years, we have provided charter application assistance to a number of applicants. I'm going to condense my comments for the sake of time in real time, if you'll bear with me. At Embark, we strongly believe that a healthy and growing charter sector requires an authorizing environment that is clear, consistent, and predictable. In several comments included in the attachments in today's agenda, it is clear that questions remain regarding the impact of renewal guidance changes before the board today because there is a lack of confidence in the consistent and predictable application of the board's own approved accountability tools, which form the foundation for any policy change, the performance framework, and the intervention ladder. In light of this, I would urge the board to take 3 related actions to give greater confidence to schools as your contractual partners. I would ask that you would revert any performance framework indicators where the results of objective data were overridden back to where what the data actually produces, and clarify that any issues not included in the performance framework as passed by the board be considered separately. In other words, we ask the board to acknowledge that it is detrimental to schools for the authorizer to use outside factors or other measures than are stated to change schools' performance framework reports, which determine whether schools are meeting contract-based performance goals for purposes of renewal. The authorizer should use its other accountability tool, the intervention ladder, to address and resolve any egregious issues, or go through a transparent process with schools and partners to revise the performance framework itself if important and necessary data is not tied to ratings. Also ask that you would add explicit language to the board-approved intervention ladder requiring a full board vote to place a school on it at any level, and subsequently pause and review all current notices placed on schools. The intervention ladder is an important tool that allows the board to place schools under scrutiny when serious issues must be addressed, such as when a school is facing insolvency, has been negligent, or has shown a pattern of noncompliance. The board should take ownership of all applications of the intervention ladder, including notices of concern and notices of breach, and ensure that any school placed on it has a clear process and reasonable timeline for resolution, and that each notice is directly connected to a single issue, so that various issues, minor or major, are not combined, preventing schools from ever returning to good standing. Schools should be invited to interact with the board in that process in order to provide all necessary evidence and context. This clarification in board policy and review of current notices would give schools confidence that the board understands the significant impact that placing a school on the intervention ladder has for their schools, their communities, and their lenders. Finally, I ask that you would discuss the use of the term professional judgment in authorizer guidance. In various places, including the authorizer's responses to feedback on renewal guidance changes, it is stated that the performance framework, quote, complements rather than replaces MCSAB's professional judgment. However, the opposite should be true. The board's professional judgment should complement the objective evaluation tools it has approved and uses to review school performance. This term should be removed where mentioned from MCSAB guidance, or simply defined as the board's general authority to make thoughtful, nuanced decisions that take into account relevant context. In other words, professional judgment, rightly defined, is not something that should create instability or make contractual obligations a moving target. More often than not, it should be used to understand how circumstances may have led to a certain result. Sorry, I lost my spot there. To identify when more time to course correct would be beneficial, or to assess when an issue is the result of an oversight or can be easily resolved. It should not be exclusively punitive or ignore what the board's own accountability tools demonstrate. Embark regularly works with operators and applicants, and we are concerned that simply voting today on policy changes without taking the related actions I have described either today or in the near future would ignore the foundational issues that the feedback you requested unearthed. The board's first responsibility is to ensure contractual obligations are fair and clear to existing charter schools, but secondly, please also consider the deterrent that an inconsistent and unpredictable environment is to attracting and retaining effective leaders. We ask that you take action to provide clarity that is not only required, but essential for Mississippi's sector to thrive and grow to provide quality education options for every student. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next we will move on to the new business items. The first is to consider approving the renewal application and guidance as proposed in accordance with APA. So I'll entertain a motion to approve this filing.
Motion to approve.
Second, Aaron Meyer.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, next is to consider approving the proposed changes to the performance framework and to file as proposed in accordance with the APA. I will entertain a motion to approve this filing.
Motion to approve.
Second, Aaron Meyer.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay, next is consider approving the FY27 budget modification. I will entertain a motion to approve the 27 budget modification.
Motion to approve.
Second, Jay Carney.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will consider the approving of FY28 budget. I will entertain a motion to approve the budget.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will consider approving a contract amendment for Basis to conduct the annual legislative report. I will entertain a motion to approve this contract amendment.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second, Aaron Meyer.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next I will consider approving a contract amendment request for SR1 CPSA. I will entertain a motion to approve the contract amendment. Does everyone know what that's? Yeah.
Background information.
Enrollment, only for enrollment for FY 28, 27 has already gone. So it's just that one, there,
For a reduction, correct?
yes.
For a reduction.
But that's-
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second,
Second, Jay Carney.
okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. All right, okay. That brings us to the conclusion. The next board meeting will be held on September.
I've got one for the executive session.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to go to executive session pursuant to Mississippi Code 2541-7
to discuss personnel issues involving job duties and performance.
Second, Candace Robbins.
Are we going into closed session first?
Yeah, we need to close it first. Yeah. Okay. To consider? Can everyone step out, please?
Oh, we need a vote. Sorry, I got in the middle of it.
That's all right.
Oh, I'll
And whoever, do you know the name is that? I don't just see that, you know. Okay, I'm good for you.
Okay, the board has moved to go into executive session, for the purposes of, discussing personnel matters under 2541-7 I think it's A, but it's for personnel.
Okay.
I think we're good.
All right, we are now back in open session. No action was taken during the executive session. The next board meeting will be held on September 28, 2026 at 1:00 PM at 239 North Lamar Street, Suite 207, Jackson, Mississippi 39201. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Please identify yourself for the record.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.
All right.